Αγαπητοί μας πελάτες, για την καλύτερη εξυπηρέτησή σας, παρακαλώ περάστε από το ταμείο 1.
Got plenty more tissue for shredding. Also, somewhere I have, they're selling black kitchen tissue, which is fantastic. They never sell black coloured tissue. And as you can imagine, I'm not about to wait all the way till October to make use of something like this, so we're doing a black and white bedding cage. Oh, is that all I had in this bag? Okay. Also picked up a couple of round breadboards. Actually, this one's a serving board, but we'll pretend we don't see that side. And all I have to do with these two is put legs on the bottom and they will be perfect. Ugh. This is made of balsa wood and I hate the feel of balsa wood. This is just a long wooden box. It's got a wee little sign on the front which I'll just rip off and probably sand this down a little bit as well. Not yet sure what I'm going to do with this. My current idea is to turn it upside down and drill a hole, not a hole, but a little doorway in that end and another doorway in that end and have it be a tunnel. I could also do a doorway in this end and another doorway at the top there, which actually might be more interesting. I have this fantastic thing. This is supposed to be a massively oversized candle holder. The tiny little glasses that go on the top of it are ridiculous. Look, tiny little thing. Pop that in. Look how much space that doesn't take up on the back. What was the point in making it this big? I don't understand. And it's also hideously ugly on the front. I will be painting over that because that's just blah. But the reason I got it is because, as you can see, it has the 4 little doorways already drilled in. So I can place it straight to the cage this way up. It provides a little shelter underneath, plenty of doorways, and then you're gonna have the top bit to put toys and other such things on. And the final thing, I got a great big metal baking tray because I thought this would make a great sand bath. So that's my little jumbo hamster haul for today, and I think it came to, it was about 20, maybe 25 euros. Wasn't too bad, really. I probably need to explain what's going on here. Backstory time for the newbies. About 3 months ago, we adopted the estranged wife and son of my hamster Nitrogen, who we also adopted from the exact same family a few months prior to that. We adopted Nitrogen from them in June, and we adopted Hydrogen, the wife, and Ammonia, the son, from that same family in November 10th was when we adopted them. At the time, I was not intending or expecting to be adding any extra residents to our family, and I certainly didn't have any extra accommodation for them at the time. I had one dwarf enclosure that was occupied by Nitrogen, I had a Syrian enclosure that is absolutely not suitable to be putting a dwarf in, and I had a mouse enclosure which was also not suitable to be putting a dwarf in. So obviously I had to build 2 brand new enclosures for them. I built them both a 1,000 square inch enclosure each. They moved into them, they settled into them, they've been happy in them. However, in late November, Nitrogen sadly suffered a seizure and passed away, leaving this enclosure that he was living in, the Petri Dish, empty. And I have spent the last couple of months trying to decide what is going to be happening with that. Obviously, there was no way I was dismantling it. It's probably my favorite enclosure. So many people ask me where they can buy this enclosure, and I'm sad to say you can't. You can't buy any of the enclosures that you see in my videos because they are all DIYs, so sorry about that. You can build them yourself if you want to. I have the video showing how I built them. But anyway, I've had 2 months to think about what I'm going to do with this cage because it's 1,600 square inches. It's a lot of space. I don't want it to go to waste. It already spent an entire year, or I think it might have been more than a year, empty after Potassium passed away, so I didn't want that to happen again. My first plan of action for what I was going to do with it is the obvious, that I would eventually get a third dwarf and put them in the enclosure, but the more I thought about it, the more I realised that I don't really want to get another dwarf. I have 2 at the moment. I do intend on getting another mouse at some point because Zinc passed away in the summer of last year and I haven't had a mouse since then, but that's top of my list for the next animal to come to the family. And then after that, I also want to get another Syrian in the family because my Syrian enclosure has now been empty for over a year. Iodine passed away at the very beginning of January last year, and I'm really missing having a Syrian in the family, so that's of course going to be the next animal on my list, which means I wouldn't even get around to getting a third dwarf until probably next year, which means the Petri dish would have been empty for over a year, which is the exact thing I don't want to do because it's such a waste of that amount of space. So plan B is simply to move one of my existing dwarfs from their 1,000 square inch cage into the 1,600 square inch cage and give them that extra floor space. I thought very carefully about which of my 2 dwarfs would make the best use out of that enclosure, and I've decided that Ammonia is going to go in there. He is the male pup. Well, not a pup anymore. He's like 10 months old now, I think. Is he that old? He can't be that old yet. July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. No, he's not 10 months old, he's 8 months old. I can't count, but he's still not a pup anymore. He's very much an adult hamster. So he's going to be moving into there. I have made plans. I have started some work on things that are going to go into it. I've spent some time planning this out and thinking about it and designing it especially for him and the things he likes to do. But I'm also going to be making some changes to Hydrogen's setup, which I'm going to talk all about and show you guys in next weekend's video. I'm not going to put it in this video because it'll just make it way too long. It'll go on for too long. And I also think because of the delicate situation we have with her, it's better left to its own video. For those who don't know, Hydrogen is actually a special needs hamster. But again, I will talk all about that in next week's video. Today, we're just focusing on the Petri dish and Ammonia. Oh, and in case you're wondering what's going to be happening to the then empty 1,000 square inch enclosure, again, I'm going to explain all about that in next week's video because that's relevant to Hydrogen and her situation. I just noticed the nitrogen sign is still on here. Now I have to cut it off. I don't want to do this bit. I'm going to put this somewhere safe. I have already put a shelf in here. I was going to take this back out and like pretend I hadn't put it in there and just like drill it in when I was doing this bit. But then I can't be bothered to, so it's already in there. It's a shelf, it's nothing special. There it is, shelf. It's screwed into the back. We've got 2 screws on either side and then 1 leg at the front here for support. So my plan for this setup is mainly shelves. So I'm going to be dividing this enclosure off so that half of it, 800 square inches approximately, is going to be the deep substrate. It's a pretty common method to do, you know, half deep substrate, half shallow substrate, so that you can put toys and heavy stuff on the shallow side that you don't want to get buried underneath the substrate, and then on the other half of the enclosure just do a big heap of nothing but substrate for burrowing in. However, that only really works if you have an enclosure of about 1,000 square inches or more, because if you have a really small enclosure and you only do half of that as substrate, it's not really going to be enough for burrowing in. Yet another reason why bigger enclosures are very important. I have a thing here that I made. Oh, that's not going to fit on the screen. Oh, ah! Oh, me funny bone! Ooh, I didn't damage the glass, did I? Well, glass is fine. Okay, so I made a shelf thing. I just poked myself in the bum with the leg. I made this big shelf thing that is, I didn't measure this, I don't know how long it is. How long is it? So this is an 80 by 30 centimeter shelf attached onto a 60 by 20 centimeter shelf. The 60 by 20 piece of wood is not only acting as a leg for this shelf, but it's also going to act as a wall to keep the higher substrate on the one half of the enclosure to make the burrowing area a bit more stable. And on the other side we just have 2 simple legs. Nothing special about those. Let's not smash anything or break anything or hurt anyone. So this bit of wood here doesn't quite come up to the glass, and that's fine because I'm going to have the substrate kind of tapering down this bit, so it's a bit of a ramp just to give him easier access into here. You'll also be able to access this area from the shelf because I intend for the substrate to go right up to it, so it's going to be 20 centimeters of depth. And for those who don't want to Google the conversion of 20 centimeters, that is 7.8 inches. I say it like that because when I posted the video of me building the dropper and the watch glass, the exterior substrate border for both of those enclosures is 15 centimeters. And the number of people who messaged me saying 15 centimeters isn't big enough, it needs to be 6 inches, was both hilarious and very sad. In case you don't know, 15 centimeters is equivalent to 6 inches. So, yeah. 20 centimeters of depth for a dwarf hamster is 7.8 inches, so it is indeed a good depth for them. Okay, so we have shelf number 1 over here, we have shelf number 2 over there, we have this whole area which is going to be the burrow. It's not really translating on camera how big that is, but that's actually quite a big area. It's 800 square inches, just as a reminder. This side is just slightly less than 800 square inches, because of course once you've added this wall in, it's not a perfect divide, that takes away a little bit of the space, so it's like 790 something square inches. It's still plenty of space. I realise I'm coming off angry and I don't mean for it to be that way. I have that energy and I can't help it. I don't really want to change it either, but people take it so personally. It's not you, it's absolutely me, but sometimes it's you. Just, you know, keep that in mind. But right now it's me, so although the 15 centimeters 6 inch thing was just Next thing I want to add to this is the great big roasting pan sand bath, which I think he's gonna love, because Ammonia has been crazy for his sand bath. I don't know how I've not managed to catch him on film, and in fact I caught him once on film rolling in it. I have to try harder next time. But I didn't want to put this straight in the enclosure as it is, because it does have tapered edges, and I feel like he might try and burrow down the side of it, and that'll just be a pain if he turns it into a toilet or something like that. So I built a little frame for it. These are just lengths of wood I've cut to fit. This is going to go in this back corner. So we have shelf 1, shelf 2, sand bath, looking lovely. But I do actually want the shelves to be connected to each other so that he can easily just get from one to the other, and it becomes kind of a bit more of a consistent running / walking area. So I built a simple bridge, again just made of strips of wood. I measured the gap between the two shelves. There is glass there, Erin, you need to be more aware of your surroundings. Measured the gap between the 2 shelves, cut 3 lengths of wood and fixed them together like this, so it's a kind of 2B tunneling thing. You may notice that the wall on this side is dropped a little lower. That's just because the lip of the lid kind of hangs forward just a little bit, and it was bumping into the wall at the back, so I had to drop it down a tiny bit so that this is below the lip on the lid. So the bridge fits quite snugly in this gap here. You have to give it a bit of a wiggle to get into place. So that's what it'll look like once it's actually fixed into place, and he'll be able to easily access this shelf from this shelf and vice versa. Please ignore the nice ugly sticker on the side. You can't see it when it's in the cage, and I cannot get it to unstick. Okay, so we'll be able to feed that under there and screw it into place, and put the corner bracket on this side. I'm gonna go ahead and do this bit off camera because my battery's flashing at me and I don't think it's gonna make it much further, so I'll put you guys on charge and show you what it looks like in a little bit with the bridge attached. It is now a couple of days later and I am really sick. I woke up this morning. I didn't wake up this morning. I woke up sometime this afternoon and my body had decided to just give up on life. So that's today's vibe. But I know I'm not contagious and I really need to get this enclosure finished, so powering through. So the bridge is now fixed on. Did I even show you guys this? I can't remember what I've shown you guys. The bridge is fixed, it's in place, it's done, it's not going anywhere. And the next thing that I want to do is add some safety railings around these shelves just to make sure he can't leap off them, or at least he can't fall off them. I suppose he could still leap off them if he wanted to. Luckily, it seems his mother's flying squirrel trait has not been passed down to him. So far, I've not seen him throw himself off anything, but I have seen him roll off a lot of things, so safety first. Alright then, shelf number 2, border number 2, whatever number 2. Now we just have to fix on the ramp. So again, strip of wood with tiny baby little lolly sticks stuck to them for foot grips. Decided to fix it on using a hinge because 1, hinges are easiest, and 2, it means that I can lift the bridge up in order to remove the sand bath when I need to. But the bridge does go all the way down into the bath. I'm feeling pretty happy with how that's looking. It's not too bad. So now I just have to add a couple more things in there, and then I can shove in the substrate and the extra enrichment stuff. So we've got the little 4-window candle holder house that I showed you earlier, painted that white, and I'm going to pop that just under there. Round breadboards I showed you, I've given them legs. There we are, lovely legs. And slightly wider bases as well so they don't topple over at all. Yeah, I think that works. I think that's alright. I'm fairly certain that all I've got left to do is add the substrate and the extra enrichment, so I'm going to do that as a time lapse because every single time I talk I feel like I'm going to vomit, and don't think that'd be a good ending for this video. Or it could be the best ending, depends on your viewpoint I suppose. While I'm doing this bit, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to talk to you guys a little bit about Ammonia and his personality, because I haven't spoken much about that side of things. You guys have seen a lot of them with cute footage and photos on my Instagram and stuff like that, but I've not really taken the time to tell you what these hamsters are like as individuals. So when we adopted Ammonia, something I didn't know about him until the day we brought him home is he actually had behavioral issues. He was so frightened of absolutely everything, and we're not just talking like untamed frightened, we're talking screaming at literally everything. And if you've never heard a hamster scream before, I'm sure I have a sound clip of it somewhere so you can hear it. It's a genuinely horrible and kind of terrifying sound, and it's a sound that hamsters only usually make when they are the most frightened or feeling the most threatened. They use it as a type of defense mechanism to make themselves seem bigger and more scary to the thing that is frightening them, and to kind of encourage it to back off a little bit and think twice. Hearing a hamster scream occasionally isn't that unusual, especially if they are brand new to your family and they are untamed. It's a lot more common to happen around that time, but you may also hear your hamster scream during their sleep if they have a bad dream. But when I say Ammonia screamed at everything, I mean everything. This was not a normal amount of screaming. And at the time, my biggest concern for him was that he had some kind of neurological issue, because I've also had a hamster in the past who had severe neurological problems along with a lot of other health problems. Some of you may even remember her. She was from way back when my channel first started in 2011. That was Pippi. And she used to scream in a lot of situations because of her neurological condition. But I wasn't certain of that, and I was hopeful that it was just a case of poor socialization. And I spent the next few weeks after adopting him putting a lot of focus and a lot of energy into just trying to earn his trust and make him feel safer and more secure in his environment. And it took a lot of time, it took a lot of work. And at this point, we have now had him for 3 months, and I am incredibly proud to say that he has not screamed at anything for several weeks. He has completely stopped screaming at things. He's really come out of his shell. He's completely changed. So when we got him, aside from the screaming, which was the biggest issue because that indicated that he was in a constant state of stress and fear, it also meant he couldn't be picked up, he couldn't be handled. You couldn't really do anything with him, and he certainly did not like anyone being around. But now, a few months on, he's a very sociable hamster. If you come into the room and he's awake, he will immediately come up onto his shelf to say hello to you. He comes to the edge of his bars to say hello. If you put your fingers in there, he happily snuffs around it. As you guys have seen from some of my videos, he is happy to have you pat him on the head when he eats. He's gone from being very frightened and very untrusting of everything, including inanimate objects, and hiding away all the time, to being very sociable, very curious about things. You can give him new toys now, and he will, in a very healthy way, he'll go up to them, he'll investigate them, he'll see what they are. And I cannot even begin to describe how proud I feel towards him, of the progress that he's made, of how well he's doing, of how sociable he now is. He's an absolute doll of a hamster. I was thinking that this was going to be a hamster that I wasn't going to get to interact with much, and I was okay with that. My main focus is making sure that he felt safe and secure and comfortable in his home. But now that I actually have built a bond with him, it's the most precious bond. I love him so much. And he's not completely there. I am still working on him with stuff. He's not particularly fond of being picked up because, of course, I didn't spend much time doing actual taming with him. I was focused mostly on making him feel safe, and so now we're kind of moving on to the taming and handling part after 3 months. He will climb onto my hand and sit on it, which is great progress, and you can lift him up a little bit from the bottom of the cage and he's fine. But once you introduce a second hand or try to do any kind of scooping motion, he hates it. He freaks out, he panics, he jumps, he doesn't like it. So he still has a way to go, and I'm still working with him a lot, trying to improve his trust in being handled. But if I'm honest, if it turns out that that's just something he can't get through, if that's a hurdle he can't get over, I think I'm going to be fine with that, because he's already come so very far that I do not mind. If he decides that he draws his line at being handled, fine, we can work around that. Health checks can be done in a clear box, as I've been doing them for him since we brought him home. It's a little bit more effort and it's not always as convenient, but we can make it work. And given how far he's come, I don't want to risk accidentally pushing him back a few steps and making him regress in his progress. So I'm just continuing to take everything very, very slowly with him. But oh my goodness, he's such a lovely hamster. He's so sweet. And I'm so glad to find out that this is not a neurological issue. This is just a case of improper socialization. I'm not sure how that happened, but it is what it is. I really cannot wait to see how he reacts to this, how he handles this situation, because especially how he handles moving into a new enclosure and a bigger enclosure is going to be really interesting, because it's such a big step for him to take. But I do genuinely believe that he is ready for this upgrade and that this will be a really positive thing for him. I'm quite happy with the way that looks. I think it's come out alright. It looks nice. I like the black and white bedding. That looks cool. Now here's the thing. You might be excited to see Ammonia explore this, but he's not actually awake yet, and I'm obviously not going to be waking him up just to move him into this so I can film it. So what I'll do is I'll end this video here, but when I do move him in, I will try my best to get some footage of it, and if I get any usable footage, I will upload a separate video of him exploring his new enclosure. I'm very excited to see what he thinks, but in the meantime though, you know all the usual stuff. I can't be bothered with the outro things anymore. You know what to do, you've been on YouTube long enough, there's links in the description box, stuff like that. And I will see you guys in my next video, whenever that will be. So yeah, bye! My tripod isn't tall enough. I've actually been crouching for this whole thing. It's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I haven't eaten anything yet. And I'm shaking all over. There's one of my neighbours. I don't want them to see me. You can see in my window so easily, and I'm deeply embarrassed by what I do. You tell people that you make YouTube videos like, oh, what kind of content do you make? You're like, I make videos on hamsters and sometimes mice. And they're like, ah, my hobbies don't embarrass me, my hobbies don't embarrass me, my hobbies don't embarrass me. Yes, they do. Bertie is howling outside my door. For no reason. He's been fed, he's been played with, he should be asleep. I don't think he realised I was still home. I think he thought I'd left him. Even though he has 2 dogs and another cat to keep him company. I need to invest in real lighting. I'm not going to, because I've been saying that I need to do that for the last 5 or 6 years. And still haven't done it, so what makes me think I'll do it now? Nothing. Buried like a strawberry, which isn't actually a berry. Buried like a banana. Because bananas are actually berries. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that information, but it's in my head. There it is. Yeah, that's the focus I wanted. Thank you, camera. So intuitive. Is that my food? That better be my food. I'm eating something, and it's whatever's just come on that vehicle. May end up being a small child. Let's wait and see if my doorbell goes. Fuck yeah, bitches! If I get demonetized over swearing for a pizza, that is fine by me.